Welcome to our podcast. For over 50 years, Hartford Family Institute has been Connecticut's premier psychotherapy institute, offering a certificate program for psychotherapists and healers and a certificate program for all others who would like to use this unique therapeutic modality for their personal and professional lives.
Hello, everyone. My name is Paul Garcia Lambert. I am here with Stuart Alpert, Donna Baker Gilroy, and David Gilroy from HFI. And today we are going to talk about negative emotions. And the first question that I would like to pose is, are there negative emotions?
No, not that there aren't emotions that are uncomfortable for us to feel, but we're talking about not dividing our emotions in our internal experience into positives and negatives, because it makes it sound like some of our feelings are acceptable and some of them are not.
Exactly.
Actually, all emotions have a purpose. Need gives us direction. Anger gives us an ability to say no and have a container and be able to say what we feel good about and not feel good about.
Grief helps us honor somebody that's been important to us who has passed.
Joy, you could say, is obvious. It allows us to feel excited, alive. And the issue that we have is not what our emotions are. It's how we feel about how we feel. Right. What we believe about our emotions. As we're saying, emotions themselves are all positive and flows of energy that exist in our body. And if we allow for the flow of energy in our body, then we feel alive. If we connect to our emotions, we feel alive, grounded, and closer to feeling our personal power.
And what I would add is when we have support for any emotion and we can really bring acceptance to it, it actually feels good to feel it, even if it's an emotion that in general is identified as a bad or negative emotion.
So we grow up with interesting beliefs. If I have a need, I'm going to be selfish. If I'm angry, I'll become explosive and act out.
Well, suppose I feel emotions such as I feel confused or crazy. That isn't something I feel I want to accept.
But those can be very useful emotions to have in our repertoire, because say with a group of people and I start to feel confused, it may be very helpful for me to be aware of my feeling of confusion, because it might be pointing towards there's something confusing going on here. And it's good for me to be aware of that.
As opposed to thinking that if you're feeling confused, there's something wrong with you having that feeling. Yeah.
Of course, the problem is sometimes if I feel confused, it is about me.
So how am I to know?
By doing your work.
Actually, the more we're able to make room for all our experiences and not fight with ourselves and accept each experience as simply a flow of energy, and then we bring mindfulness, consciousness to confusion, to whatever, the craziness, to chaos, to whatever experience we have inside of us. And we don't obsess about it. It's the obsession, it's the thinking about our feelings that often create all the dilemmas that we have when we simply make room for whatever experience we have we become more aligned with ourselves, more grounded, and more connected to spirit.
And what we're saying about making room for it is about allowing for the body reaction of our feelings, not just the thoughts about our feelings. In our society and in schools, we're taught to think, and that brings us into our intellect, which is very important. But we're not always taught how to live our feelings on a body level. And so having the combination of both our mind and our body is essential. It really helps us with having a way to live our emotions that's helpful.
I could ask everyone, what's the message you got growing up of if you had a need, if you were angry, if you felt excited, if you began to cry? What message did you get? Did you get a message of how your feeling makes sense? A message of I love you? I'm here with you as you feel the experience? Or did you get some negative message that you wound up connecting to and bonding with, that you wind up turning against yourself and turning against your own emotions?
My experience is if I cried, I was told my face was going to freeze that way.
I had an interesting experience as growing up. My mother used to say to me, if you whistle, you're going to, I can't think of how to say it all of a sudden. If you whistle, something bad's going to happen to you. If you whistle in the house, something bad's going to happen to you.
I never heard that one.
I wonder how many generations back that came into being.
So are you saying that the way that we are treated as children forms how we feel about our emotions?
Yes, that forms how we feel about our emotions, and it forms our beliefs about our emotions. And it prevents us from simply honoring every emotion makes sense, has meaning.
And of course, society adds to that too. I'm always struck when a popular figure is experiencing grief, for example, like Jackie Kennedy. And if the person doesn't cry, they're said, look how strong they are. Look at how well they got through that. As opposed to showing the real reaction that would be appropriate to what the situation was. So society reinforces a lot of our beliefs.
A lot of mythology.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so as we develop all these beliefs, it prevents us from simply living the flow of energy in our body. And as I said, feeling connected to the earth, feeling connected to our heart, and even being open-hearted can be seen as something that's a problem, rather than something that's a beautiful, beautiful experience that allows us connect to other people in a very deep and rich way and connect to the flow of energy in the universe.
So I end up having been treated a certain way by my caregivers as I grow up, and I have all of society's judgments about emotion. How do I go about changing my relationship to my emotions? If I find that I have emotions that I am judging as bad and I can't tolerate how I feel, what do I do about it? Go ahead.
An experiment that I often give my clients is because you say to yourself, I love you. And see what that touches in you. To simply say, I love you. And it's amazing how many people I can give that experiment to. Say, no, I'm disgusted with myself. I'm angry with myself. He doesn't deserve it. The he being that inner part of myself.
And what I would also add in response to your question is, this is where taking a step into therapy is very important. And sometimes if somebody, say, for example, is uncomfortable with feelings they have, they might not even realize that therapy could be helpful about that. They might think, oh, I have to have some major big crisis happening right now, then it would be okay. But to be able to get a connection for every single feeling we have, especially ones that don't feel good, therapy is very helpful. Especially therapy such as what we provide at Hartford Family Institute, which allows for embodying the emotions.
So another way to answer your question is we can talk directly. Say I have a feeling inside of me that I'm not comfortable feeling. I can continue what I've probably been doing all my life, which is try to push that away, which is not a problem because pushing it away once upon a time was probably a very good idea given the situation you were in, or I was in. Or I can begin to talk to that place inside of me that's having that feeling. I could say, hello. I've been a stranger to you for a long, long time. And I wonder how it would be if I could get curious about you and find out more about you. And in that way, we start to get to know ourselves on a much deeper level, which also helps us get to know other humans on a deeper level.
Would it be wonderful if the way we could live is to say to each other, this is how I feel, whatever the feeling is. Be with me as I feel the experience. Be with me as I feel my need. Be with me as I feel my anger. Be with me as I feel my joy. Be with me as I feel my grief. Don't try to change me. Don't try to fix me. Don't create a problem for me. Just simply be with me. What I need is your presence. That's what I need. Be with me. We all have a be with need that we often deny or wind up feeling that's the problem. That I have a problem because I feel like I want to attach to someone else. I want to be connected to someone else. Rather than I want to attach. I want to feel close. Be with me as I feel that.
It's a way of playing the movie backwards, because what created the difficulty to begin with was not having someone with us and supporting us in each feeling that we could have as a human being.
It feels like there's almost a Pandora's box of questions that what you've just said is opening. And so I'm hearing that you are suggesting a radical new approach to dealing with emotion, which is completely non-judgmental.
Yes.
If we have an emotion and we simply allow ourselves to be conscious of the emotion, the very nature of consciousness is acceptance. So we don't have to accept our emotions. We have to simply bring consciousness to our experience. And the moment we bring consciousness to our experience, transformation happens immediately.
So I can transform myself through consciousness.
Yes.
Where do I go to learn this stuff?
Right here.
Go to the right place.
It's in here right now.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? So is that what you teach at the Hartford Family Institute?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
That's what we teach in our training program for therapists. That's what we teach in the human relations program for non-therapists. And that's what is a fundamental part of every client that we have.
So tell me more about the process that a person goes through as they are trying to simply accept their emotions as they show up.
We use an important word, process. And that is what each of us has. We each have a process.
It's standard equipment.
When we are met as children with anti-life energy and anti-life statements from our caregivers, as again, we learn to turn against ourselves. And what we call that in terms of HFI, body-centered psychotherapy, we call that the victimizer. The internal beliefs that we have in our brain about what's good or bad about ourselves, rather than everything about us is perfect. So we try to improve ourselves, and there's nothing to improve because we're not a problem, and we've never been a problem. And the process of therapy is to unpack all of that and get closer to what's fundamental about all of us, is consciousness.
So what does this unpacking procedure look like? What happens? What happens in a standard therapy session? I come in, I express to my therapist, I got so angry, something happened to me, and I'm so mad at my spouse. I'm so mad at my children. I'm so mad at my boss. I'm whatever. And I can't stand the fact that this person is doing this or that.
Part of what's exciting about being a therapist is there's an infinite number of ways a therapy session can go. You don't ever have to get bored when you're a therapist. Making the donuts. It's not like that. So there could be a gazillion different ways to approach the question you just raised. And it might be inviting you to make room for that feeling as an experience in your body. And can you imagine maybe having somebody with you who can be with you and be supportive of your having that feeling? And you don't have to go talk to the person that you're having the feeling about yet. You can soak that in for a while and notice what that feels like in your body.
And I might say, you being angry is absolutely perfect. What's your relationship to your own anger? In other words, how do you feel about being angry? The problem isn't your anger. The problem is how you feel about being angry. And the more you feel negatively about your anger, the more the energy of anger builds up in your body. And the more the energy builds up in the body, the more it turns into violence and wanting to hurt someone and wanting revenge and wanting to act out. And the more that happens, the more you might hold in and create tension in your body and deny that you're angry or get depressed as a way of shutting down your anger. And that's what we start to help a client get close to and begin to sense the truth of that.
And what David and Stuart are speaking of is how to bring safety to the experience. When you're listened to about what the dilemma is, about what brought you to therapy, and you start to have a connection that it's absolutely okay to feel what you're feeling, you start to feel safer. And safety is one of the key ingredients. Nothing changes unless we feel safe. We just form another defense. So these are ways of being listened to and being able to embody the feeling as you start to feel safer.
So the therapist is going to model acceptance as a way of showing the client, here's how you can relate to your own emotion. and change your relationship once you recognize the emotion itself is not a problem.
Mm-hmm. And it's not going to be a mechanical experience on the therapist's part.
Right.
Of I'm going to model something to my client. Therapy only works if it's real. It only works if I really do feel your feeling is non-problematical. If I really do have acceptance.
There's good news and there's bad news.
Tell me the good news, Stuart.
This comes up over and over again.
Actually, the good news and the bad news is the same news.
Oh.
Which is the way through is really to feel the truth of how we were treated as children and how that got organized in our brain, in our nervous system, in every cell of our body, in the beliefs that we have created, to feel what we call death layer. And the reason we call it death layer is it often feels to go back and revisit the childhood that we wanted to organize against. Feels like at moments that we're going to die. What's really going to die is the structure that we dealt and created as a way of surviving. It's not dead. It's structure. It's giving up an old identity and taking on a new identity of acceptance of every experience that we have.
I can give an example. I remember early on in therapy, I was able to talk about the ways I had been judged about how I looked, whether I was happy, whether I was sad. There was always a judgment about it. And I started to notice when I looked in the mirror that I was starting to show what I felt because I had learned to have a mask of not showing what I felt. And I was like, oh my gosh, it really frightened me because I'm showing what I'm feeling. So that's an example of what we're speaking.
Actually, what you're saying, Donna, really touches me. Reminds me of years ago when I would look in the mirror and I would say, oh God, I don't like the way you look. What I was seeing that I didn't realize at the time, I was seeing the way I had organized against my feelings and against my life energy, and seeing the defensive structure that I had created, and now judging that rather than understanding that's what I needed to do to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I looked in the mirror, saw a feeling, that's not a good idea. Or it wasn't a good idea.
So this process can get complicated because to start to walk this path with a therapist and walk yourself through getting to know your own depths on some level feels at times like you're giving up the support that you had that allowed you to survive as a kid. It starts to feel at times like a really not good idea. And so there's parts of us that kick in and start saying, no, I'm not going to keep walking in this direction. So part of the process has to be appreciating those parts as they come up and making room for the no.
And what you're saying, David, is so important. Making room for the no needs to move beyond intellectually making room for no, but really feeling the no deeply in our body and feeling the support and safety. I have a no. No. No, I don't want to go any further. No, I want to stay stuck. No, this is no. We're bringing consciousness to the no And again, the more we bring consciousness to our no, the more we're accepting our no through consciousness and begin to transform.
So it's part of the therapist's job to recognize these no's as they come up and to support them rather than seeing them as a problem that needs to be overcome.
One of the very exciting things about our training program is we teach therapists a roadmap to understanding every possible experience that a client can have. And that we keep on focusing on where's life, where's existence.
Yep.
What I was saying before about safety, and now we're mentioning no. No developmentally comes before yes. And many of us at the stage where we were developing a no, which was a natural stage of development, were made to feel that we should not say no to our parents. We were supposed to do exactly as we were told and never have a protest. And so in order to come back to any kind of safety, we need to have support that it's okay to have a no and to start to learn the ways our no's were stopped.
That's all about the terrible twos.
It is. And why they're called terrible.
Well, because as a child reaches that age and they start to have a no, what the no is an ability to individuate
That's
and
right.
have a sense of self.
Right.
So no is supposed to be supported.
Yes, it doesn't mean that a child gets to do whatever they want. They need very solid, loving boundaries and limits. They can still honor the child's no, even if they have to tell them they cannot do. They can't go running across the street, for example. But that doesn't have to be done in a way that makes them feel like they were the worst kid in the world.
You have a wonderful, wonderful no. In fact, let's play a no game. You say no to me and I'll say no to you. No, 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 no. How many times can you say that to me?
A gazillion.
Let's fill the universe with...
So for a young kid to say no is not a lifelong statement of policy. For a kid to say no is a crucial experiment in finding out what it feels like to have your own thoughts, to have your own opinions, to have freedom. And all the parents I've ever met, when they learn this, they're pretty interested in promoting freedom in their kids.
Except for the parents that want to keep control. And they are frightened of children's aliveness and spirit. And they believe that their job is to hold against and create what they believe might be the perfect child. And in fact, the perfect child is humanness.
Many parents can't distinguish between something that the child does that touches a feeling in them. They may believe the child did something to them, and then they try to control the child.
So if a child touches an emotion that the parent doesn't have support for and judges to be bad, they're going to see their child as the problem.
Absolutely. Yes. This child is so defiant. This child purposely gives me a hard time. Things of that nature.
Why did I have to be stuck with such a child?
Exactly.
When it's
And on and on.
Yeah.
when it's the parent who needs more support, has feelings inside of them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So a parent having that kind of a reaction to their child doesn't deserve to be blamed about having that reaction. It needs to be understood.
So that speaks to the upbringing of the parent, not the child.
Yes. The upbringing of the parent, and as David was saying, generationally, going back to how generations past keep on bringing the same issues into the next generation.
So judgment about emotion is passed down generationally?
Yes.
On some level, when you really take in that whole picture, there's something to be really appreciated about the whole human race. That we've all down through history, we've absorbed all kinds of different traumas at different times in history. And that gets all passed down. And in each one of us, we all have our individual journey through learning how that operates inside of us.
And is that part of the meaning of the word process?
Yes.
Yes. And think how fascinating that here's one parent, here's another parent, each one having their own set of what's been passed down, now making a new combination of how they parent a child. I think we're all little miracles moving around. We each have our own unique process.
Yeah. The last night of a training program last week, we asked everybody the question in the part of the training program that I was doing. How does your parents still live inside of you right now? And what does that mean in terms of how you're parenting yourself? Are you parenting yourself with understanding, compassion, and love? Or are you parenting yourself in some negative way that you were parented, that you carry down into your adult life right now, into your beliefs about who you are and what you should feel and what you shouldn't feel?
Such a great question. I want to say that even after years of therapy, that's still a great question to ask. Because I think through our lifetime, we continue living what we've bonded to, what we've inherited in different ways. And so I really like that question.
I don't know if both of you, Dave and Donna, were here. I think it was a Thanksgiving meal. And my wife at the time, we were all enjoying and eating. And I looked at my wife Naomi's plate, and she hadn't finished what she was eating. And I said to her, "Aren't you going to finish what you're eating?" And then I started to laugh, and I said, "How did my mother just get here?" And we just all, and everything went back to a connection.
That's great.
The other thing that I'm thinking is that pain is a part of life. Suffering is optional. How we suffer our pain is optional and learned.
So I want to invite you to say more.
More.
Yes. And I want to invite you to explain what you just said.
If the pain isn't necessarily mean that I'm stuck where I am. I'm going through life and I encounter an experience of pain.
Mm-hmm.
It's when we get stuck in, there's part of who we are that knows how to make us suffer.
So I become the source of my own pain, and I continue to apply that energy.
Yep.
And hold myself in an experience of pain, and that's suffering.
Yes. We keep going around the same barn over and over again.
But I'm the one holding myself in that experience.
Yes.
And I have to learn, if I don't want to suffer anymore, I have to recognize how I'm the person doing it.
Yes. So can I start to become aware of that without blaming myself about it?
And that's consciousness.
That's consciousness.
Oh, I'm hitting my head. I'm hitting my head as a way of saying, get out of this, get out of this, get out of this, get out of this. I could become conscious. Oh, I'm hitting my head. Oh, I'm hitting my head.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I'm hitting my head.
What would happen if I stopped hitting my head?
I'm just hitting my head. Huh. Let me just experience that. Let me breathe. Let me simply be conscious. As I do that, I have no desire to hit my head anymore. Something has transformed as I simply become conscious of how I've been treating myself. And yet what I've needed to do is make room for the level of frustration and anxiety that's been welling up in my body that I've always railed against and felt like the anxiety and the pressure was my problem, rather than the anxiety and the pressure were trying to inform me about how I needed to organize myself in relation to the victimizing energy that came at me as a child.
This sounds like really powerful stuff.
It's very, very exciting. And in that way, it feels like every therapy session we do is very, very exciting.
Well, I want to thank you all for training me in this mode because I practice it and I love it.
I can't imagine what my life would be like if I hadn't been able to have this training. It's really enriched my life. It continues to.
So does this feel complete? Or is there more that you would like to say?
I think it might be important to say a little more about pain. That doesn't mean that any pain we feel we can just become conscious of and it changes it. It's also true if we have injuries or the pain is very intense. It's still important to seek out medical care and do whatever needs to be done in that regard. And even with that, it's bringing consciousness to how we're living that experience. So we're not saying that you don't need to take all those steps if you're in pain.
So there's physical pain that may be pointing to a physical issue that needs to be addressed medically.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Even if there's a component of that's emotional,
I think there always is.
you still need to deal with the physical sometimes.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to go to the emergency room.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of your consciousness of, oh, I really need to be taken care of right now. Let me go to someone skilled who can help me with this.
Everything can become a defense against coming home to ourselves. So there can be clients who say, I'm not going to go to the doctor. This is all about process. And that becomes a defense against taking care of yourself and taking your physical pain seriously. So it's not what we do. It's the energy that we do it from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Another question of depth of consciousness.
Yes.
Yes.
When you ask the question, is there anything more we want to say? What I realized I began to do is become quiet inside of myself and feel as deep a place inside of me if there was something more I wanted to say. So I was giving myself time and space. And that often is so difficult for people to give themselves time and space to feel themselves and go deeper into themselves rather than come out of their obsessions and their ruminations in their mind.
Yeah, we could probably keep on talking for a long, long time on this subject.
Mm.
And inside of me, it feels complete for now.
I'm feeling complete right now.
Actually, I want to say, are there any other questions you have?
No, I don't. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And please, again, if you have any questions or comments, please send them to us, and we'll at least look at them. Can't guarantee that we will address all of them, but we'll do our best. So thank you.